Hello again. This week, collecting on a budget. Something I've done all my life, but I thought this would be useful to show you something I bought this week, which cost £10. I'm not saying that £10 isn't a lot of money. It is to a lot of people, but you don't often buy antiques that are 250, 300 years old for £10. Not these days. You can't even buy a chips upper for that. So I want to show you the thing I spotted actually on social media, on Instagram, in a picture of from a lovely centre in Melksham Arcade. And there was a picture of all manner of wonderful things. And I spied this. Yes, it's a buckle. He's on buckles again. This rather lovely buckle. Now, I suppose, but being fair about it, you could look at that, and because it's rectangular, it could date to any period at all. It could be quite modern, a modern bit of costume jewellery. It could be Victorian. I have a suspicion the person whose cabinet this was in may have thought this was Victorian. When I looked at it and I saw it, and I'll put, again, we can't zoom in. I can't afford a cameraman, I'm afraid, but I'll put detailed pictures on. There are features of this, the way the pastes are cut, the setting of them, the shape, which is this mechanism inside, that all told me that this was actually quite an early Georgian shoe buckle, a moderate sized shoe buckle, only one of a pair, but it was priced up, ticket price £5. And obviously there was a little bit of a charge to get it to me, because I didn't want to drive all the way down to Wiltshire to pick it up. That would have been counterproductive in terms of petrol cost. So it cost £10. And just to talk you through it, to show you, I mean, this was this week. This was a few days ago. So if you'd have been walking into the antique centre in Melksham, you could have bought this for £5. So it's, this isn't something rare and unusual that I found. It was just sitting in a cabinet. But the frame of it, although unmarked, this lovely frame, which I've given a little bit of a polish. I'm a bit vain like that. That's solid silver to begin with. And the whole thing is cast and inset into the frame. And I suppose this is the good thing about a video. We can't get too close up to it, but I can show you that it's still got the sparkle. Are these paste stones, obviously not diamonds, but paste, lead crystal paste, but all hand faceted. These were not machine produced, by their hundreds. Each one had to be faceted as you would facet a real gemstone. And there are 28 in this frame. So 28 hand-faceted Georgian paste stones are then placed in this cast silver frame. And you can see where they've got split mountings around the edge. So when they were put in, it was pushed down, and those two little parts move like that, each one closing over one side of one stone, holding it in place. And that happens in rows along this edge and this edge. So there are 4 points that hold each stone in place. And what's marvellous is, since this was made in about 1750, none of the stones have fallen out and been replaced with some horrible replica. Lovely steel shape, and really well finished as well. There's a lot of detail in that. You've got that little pierced section. If I contrast it with my forehead there, you can see little pierced openwork section here. Very fine, 2 very fine prongs. That's an early feature. That helps me date this, because this shape of buckle could easily be late 18th, early 19th century. But it is the shape at the back, this style of shape, where it wastes in here and has this little bit of decoration, and these 2 beautifully wrought, very narrow prongs. Later, you will see that those get rounded, this section gets thicker, and they might even splay out a little bit. So that was a marvellous find, but it goes to show that you don't need fortunes to collect antiques. £10, amazing. £10 delivered to the door is amazing. I didn't even have to leave the house to get it. So there are all sorts of little things. Now, obviously, if this had been a pair of buckles, they would have been very much more. But think about buying and looking for small, perfect, smaller objects to begin with if you're collecting on a budget. Honestly, you know, if you were to collect something like salt condiment spoons, single buckles, pairs of fiddle pattern sugar tongs, none of this stuff is going to cost you a fortune, and you can afford to be quite choosy about it. And when you get, as I said last week, with sort of buying the best you can afford, it doesn't mean throwing money at things. It's quite the reverse. It's about being aware of what the best thing is. That's the hard thing. Knowing a good thing when you see it, but also only buying good things when you see them. But it can be done. You know, I will confess that's the least money I've ever paid for a Georgian buckle. Normally, these, when people know what they are £40 or £50. But still, go hunting. They're all about, you know, these things turn up in job lots, in auctions, in jewellery boxes, and dealers split them up, and most dealers won't know what these are. So there's a lot of scope. What I don't want you to be thinking is that you can't collect antiques because you haven't got bags of money, or you know, your social standing or anything like that. There is no barrier. If you learn about things, really, once you're equipped with knowledge, which is the key thing, you can go anywhere with a small amount of money and buy beautiful things. They may not be dramatically commercial. I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to go and sell it, you know, for £20-30 profit. But, you know, if you're forming a collection, it could be a wonderful little group, and you don't have to do these things quickly either. So that is, I'm sorry, it's very brief this week, and I haven't really told you very much, but it's just an encouragement to start, if you were thinking of it, collecting on a budget. And I must say, from my very enjoyable experience of buying from Melksham Arcade, there are centres all over the country where lots of little dealers, lots of part-time dealers, have little units and put bits and pieces they buy in very small auctions, out-of-the-way auctions that big dealers often don't get to, and it affords you the opportunity to find a bargain. So pop out if the sun's shining this weekend, and whilst you're doing your shopping, call in to your local antique shop or antique centre, even if you've only got a tenner in your pocket, and you could come out with something, you know, nearly 300 years old and absolutely glorious. So good antiques hunting, and until next week, goodbye.